Hi, this is Lisa Decker with the Divorce Way Cafe at DivorceTownUSA.com, and I am so excited to be with you today sharing this Google Hangout with a dear friend of mine, Rosalind Sedacca. We're going to be talking about International Child-Centered Divorce Month coming in January. And Rosalind is recognized as the voice of child-centered divorce. She is a divorce and parenting coach as well as the founder of Child-Centered Divorce Network for Parents. She is also the author of the internationally acclaimed ebook, How Do I Tell the Kids About the Divorce? A Create a Story Guide to Preparing Your Children with Love. Rosalind is also an expert blogger for the Huffington Post, an advisor at ParentalWisdom.com, a contributing expert for Divorce360.com, Kids Edge magazine, and numerous other divorce, parenting, and singles websites and blogs. Today, she's going to share her personal insights on avoiding dangerous divorce mistakes parents make. Join me in welcoming a woman who has created a very unique approach to a very difficult situation, Rosalind Sedacca. Rosalind, welcome to this Google Hangout. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Lisa. It's always a pleasure talking with you.
And you as well. We've known each other for quite some time, and I'm really honored to have you here. I know that the information that you provide for folks is just invaluable in helping them to have effective ways of co-parenting. So I'm very excited to have you share with us about International Child-Centered Divorce Month, and also very excited to be a contributing member of that. So can you tell us more about International Child-Centered Divorce Month and who it's for, and when did all of this come about?
Yes. International Child-Centered Divorce Month is an entire month every January devoted to educating parents who are facing divorce, going through divorce, or long after divorce, or transitioning after divorce, to make the best decisions on behalf of their children. And we have accessed divorce experts around the world who are providing information, resources, tools, tips, advice, programs, and it's all free, complimentary, so that you can get information from anyone you choose or everyone who's participating that you choose just with a click. We've created a special website to do that, and you could just scroll down and access free ebooks and audios and video programs and trainings and coaching services, and you name it, it's there. But all of it is focused in one direction, helping families stay as families despite the divorce and making the best decisions on behalf of their children. Because as you well know, divorce doesn't end the situation if you're a parent. The co-parenting challenges continue for years and years afterwards, and so you want to do the very best you can and avoid the myriad mistakes that we too often see, especially in the headlines. So we want to get parents, tell them that there are better options, and show them how to take advantage of those options.
I love it, and the page is just robust with all kinds of terrific gifts, so I'm going to encourage everyone to go there. Why don't you give that website now, and we'll make sure to share that link again.
Wonderful, yes. It's DivorceParentsSupport.com/ebook. And divorce has an ED at the end, so it's DivorceParentsSupport.com/ebook. And when you get to that site, there's a place to just enter your email address, and instantly you'll get my free ebook on post-divorce parenting, and you'll be linked to a page with all the other gifts. And we have participants throughout North America and in Europe and in Australia and in South Africa as well. And every year the list keeps growing with the professionals. And they include divorce attorneys and mediators, financial planners such as yourself, therapists, parenting experts, anyone who has an interest in supporting and helping families go through the many, many challenges. We all know that divorce is not easy, but so many people get advice maybe from family and friends, and some of the advice is very antiquated. It's things that they may have done 5 years ago, or they may have an agenda about feeling about their ex, and so people will have rules that everyone should feel the same way. And the reality is that no two families are the same. No two divorces are the same. Certainly, you know, the financial situations are never the same.
Right.
The resolutions are not the same. And depending on your situation, you want to know all of the options available, and you want to stay out of court whenever possible, avoid litigation, use mediation, collaborative options, so that you save as much money as you can for the important thing like raising your children, and also not create unnecessary conflict and tension. Divorce is difficult enough as it is, but sometimes you get in the wrong hands and people guide you into creating unnecessary conflict and months and months and sometimes years of unnecessary court battles. And what happens is that the kids are inevitably the pawns, and they feel the brunt of these situations. So we want to give you as many options and choices as possible, and then help you feel supported, whatever you choose, to go down the best path, and to avoid the terrible mistakes that parents have made in the past that can be avoided, and that will protect your children and give your children the childhood they deserve. Because divorce can rob children of their childhood if parents aren't really aware and cautious about what they're doing. And I know no one intentionally says, oh, well, I'm going to screw my kids up during this divorce. Everyone says that they care. But if you fall into the wrong hands, you could be making mistakes that are going to be costly for you financially, emotionally, and psychologically. And all of the professionals that you see at the Divorce Parent Support website are all in alignment with caring about putting the family first, the children first, the future of your family first, so that you can avoid so many unnecessary pitfalls.
I love that. You know, at DivorceTown, the roadmap that I created, we have in the center of town is the Put Kids First Park.
Yes.
You know, I subscribe completely to what you say here, and this information is so important. And when I sit with clients, whether they be men, women, individually, or when I sit with couples and when I'm working as a neutral, one of the first things that we talk about is the fact that even though the family structure will become different for them and the children, they still are a family. And we don't want to destroy the fabric of the family in the divorce process. And so this information is just wonderful, this movement that you've started. You are the founder. You're the mother of this wonderful movement, and we thank you for that. So let me ask you a few more questions here. We've talked about who participates on the website. You've got a tremendous amount of wonderful experts there. I had a chance to look through the page and scroll down and see all the great gifts. So folks, avail yourself to these free items because there is just a wealth of knowledge on the page. What is the Child-Centered Divorce Network? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. The Child-Centered Divorce Network that I've founded, it's close to a decade ago, is devoted year-round to supporting parents in making the best decisions for their children. And we have free resources, advice, articles, tips, and information, as well as coaching services for those who really need a more personal, hands-on support network. And I also have a 10-hour audio coaching program that you can listen to with a workbook, and it takes you through all the challenges that you're going to face before, during, and long after divorce, so you could make better decisions, communicate better, understand the parameters of what's involved with divorce, and especially those pitfalls, because there are certain mistakes that are just so easy to make. There's things that are so tempting to do, and we don't always see the consequences immediately.
Mm.
And when we're forewarned, we can avoid them. And when you avoid them, it's really a gift and a blessing for your children, because your children are being saved from some very, very painful experiences.
Right. That prevention is always better than trying to resolve a problem after after it's happened, and especially when it comes to children and their emotions.
Yes.
You know, the scars that can be.
And let me just say, the Child-Centered Divorce Network can be accessed year-round at childcentereddivorce.com.
Great, great. Full of wonderful resources, Roz, always you are. What are some of the primary issues that you help parents with?
Well, we focus on co-parenting effectively. Obviously, if there's a divorce, people don't feel really good about each other, and that's part of the divorce process. And in some cases, there's tension and high conflict between mom and dad. And what we want to do is remind mom and dad that when you have children, that you're going to be their parents forever. And if you can co-parent effectively together, it is a gift to your children, because it avoids a lot of the pain and struggle. Children innately love both parents.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very hard for them to get pulled apart, because it's normal to want to get the kids on your side. It's normal to want to tell them all the terrible things dad did to you, or how mom screwed up our lives. And you want to vent. And especially if your kids are older, like teens, then it's very natural to start sharing and turning your kids into confidants.
Not good.
It's very dangerous. Even with older teenagers, they're still children. They still don't fully comprehend adult issues. Look at the difficulties adults have with adult issues.
Even adult children, you know.
Of course, that's right.
Not the place to put them in the middle.
And so when you're laying the burden of that, making children choose between parents, or decide who's right or wrong, or using your kids as messengers between mom and dad, you tell your father that he was supposed to pick you up an hour ago, those kinds of things, it changes who they are. It affects them. And they won't always tell you. They're not going to share with you how they're feeling. Sometimes they can't even voice how they're feeling, but inside they're torn apart. And what happens is that it's a lifelong shift. It changes who they are. It affects their ability to feel comfortable and confident within their own skin. They're confused. They tend to really be very apprehensive about relationships, trusting life partners, and making better decisions when it's time for them to get married. And so there's a lot of damage that happens. And if you can remember to let your kids be kids, if you want to vent to friends, punch pillows, talk to your therapist, talk to your coach, talk to your divorce financial planner, but don't use the kids as sounding boards, and don't try to coerce them into taking your side, even if you really feel justified, and most of the times we do. Even if mom or dad did something terrible to you, and you're very angry at your ex, they may still have been good parents, and your kids love them anyway. And so to start talking about the adultery, or the gambling, or the addiction, or the ways that life was messed up because of their other parent, it's painful for them, and it's not helping them in any way. And most dangerous of all, and most destructive of all, is fighting around the kids on any level. Studies have shown again and again and again that high conflict damages children, and they have no recourse. There's no way to turn. They don't know how to turn it off. They don't know what to do about it. And when they live with it, it affects them emotionally and psychologically. And there are so many books and videos and programs that are interviewing adult children of divorce who talk about their experience and how painful it was for them. You don't want to be doing that to your children. You can get a divorce and parent effectively without harming them that way. But you have to put yourself in your children's shoes. You
Yeah.
have to understand what life is like for little Susie and Johnny, whether they're 5, whether they're 10, whether they're 15. At every age, children are impacted differently and in different ways. And you need to see it and understand it. And if you can't, then you need to talk to a divorce professional who will help you understand and also show you other options you have.
Right. You know, it's very important. One of the things a lot of people have said to me is that I stayed together for the sake of the children. That and
Yes.
what you mentioned about fighting around the children and how destructive that is, you know, it can be less destructive on a child to be in two loving homes where there's not all this contention going on, rather than grow up in a home where they know that there's problems. And many people have said to me, who come to me later in life to get divorced, they say, you know, my kids told me I should have gotten divorced earlier, that, you know, they wish that they didn't, they feel guilty that their parents stuck it out for their sake. So, you know, you've got to look at it, like you said, through the eyes of the children.
You make such an important point, Lisa. And I myself was a child of parents who stayed together for the sake of the kids. And I grew up in a family where my parents were fighting constantly. It was no blessing. They would have been much happier, and we would have been much happier as children to have been in two homes without that conflict. There was no blessing in staying together. So the fighting and the bickering is very, very damaging for kids in an intact marriage or in a divorce. And there are tools and resources that we can use to simplify matters, and sources and courses and trainings and programs. And I highly recommend the online scheduling tools that are available. They're very inexpensive, and they give both parents access to checking in day by day, hour by hour, with all the details that you need so you can co-parent effectively. It keeps parents off the phone with one another, bickering about the little details, because all the information is in one place, and it helps reduce conflict. One of them that I recommend, for example, is coparently.com, and they do a wonderful job. They offer so many different resources to help with more effective co-parenting. And if you do have an attorney or a mediator or a therapist on board in your divorce, they get free access to checking in. So it forces both parents to communicate on a cleaner level. Your language is better, you're more effective in your emails, you get to the point, and there's much less areas of contention that way.
It's also a good place to keep a record of things that are going on in case you do need to go back to court for any reasons, although, of course, we hope that doesn't happen, but there are multiple purposes for those types of resources. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I highly recommend that parents look into that, because it just simplifies life, and there's much less opportunity to say, oops, I forgot, I didn't know, you should have known. All of that gets eliminated. So the co-parenting is cleaner. And then there are skills that we can teach you to how to communicate your needs, your desires, how to choose your battles. When do you stand up and say, I have to fight about this? And when do you let go and realize that your children will be okay even if the rules are different in mom's house and dad's house, as long as there isn't constant conflict for them. Children are very adaptable, and if they're not in an arena of tension, they can learn that discipline is a little different in the two homes, bedtime is different in the two homes. They adapt. So you don't have to spend your life changing your co-parent. You just have to learn how to communicate effectively, learn how to diffuse arguments, and we can help you learn those skills and focus on good, solid, clean parenting. And there are some great questions that I always have my clients ask themselves. One, for example, is, do I love my children more than I may dislike or hate my ex?
Great
Do I
question.
love my children more than I hate my ex? If you stop and ask yourself that question every time you make a decision, it'll keep you on the right side of the decision. It'll keep you on track to make the decision that's child-centered, rather than coming from ego or coming from it has to be done my way, or
Right.
I want to do this because I know it's going to hurt my ex.
There's
If we're
another.
making,
I'm
yes,
sorry. Yeah,
if
there.
we're making decisions knowing that the purpose is to hurt your ex, you're
Mm,
not being an effective parent.
mhm. Mhm.
And so that's a very important question. Equally important is the question, would I be making the same decision if we were still married?
Mm,
Sometimes you have, after divorce, life goes on. You still have decisions regarding educating your kids and discipline and homework and vacation and all the routine matters that happen with school and life. And if you ask yourself, would I be making the same decision the same way if we were still married? That means you're making a clean, effective parenting decision, as opposed to, oh, I'm making this decision, but in some way I'm doing it because I want to get back at my ex. So I'm going to change our plans for the holidays and take the kids 1,000 miles away just so that my ex doesn't get to see them. If you're coloring your parenting decisions with something having to do with hurting your ex, you are really doing a disservice to your kids on a very major level. And so if you ask yourself that question first, it'll keep you back in alignment of doing the best thing for your kids. And that's what you really want. And that's what they're going to thank you for when they're grown.
Absolutely. And there's one other question coming from the financial perspective when people are, getting into that place during the divorce. A famous question in the divorce world is, would I like to send my children to college or my divorce attorney's kids to college?
Oh, I love that.
It can get very expensive fighting over the kids, and letting a stranger, a judge, make decisions for you in the best interest of your child just doesn't make sense in most cases. So trying to work things out in a civil manner and being respectful and just using common sense goes a long way in the divorce process. And I think having folks like yourself as a coach or working with a therapist or both can help get you to that place where you're making sound decisions.
That's so important, Lisa. Thank you so much for mentioning that. We so strongly endorse choosing mediation as a platform, collaborative attorneys, attorneys who are not just focused on litigation, because if you're paying by the hour and someone is leading you down a battle, you have to really stop and question whether the battle is in the best interest of your attorney or is it in the best interest of your family. And that's a big question. Not everything is worth battling over, and sometimes it really makes sense to start with harmony after the divorce so that you could co-parent harmoniously. If you don't have children, it's a different question. It's a very black and white situation. But when you have children involved, those little psyches deserve your extra attention, thinking about every step of the way, every detail.
I like that. Those little psyches. Those little psyches grow up to be big psyches, and we want them to be healthy ones.
We certainly do.
So share with us a couple of tips on how parents can avoid making some of the biggest divorce mistakes that you see.
Yes. Well, again, the fighting around the kids, even an earshot of the kids, is very dangerous. And choosing to learn how to communicate more effectively. If we use I language rather than you language, if we're not starting the conversation with our ex and pointing the finger and every time we speak to them accusing them of what they did wrong, catch your ex doing something right and acknowledge them for it. Remember that co-parenting, no matter how stringent your rules are, rules have to be broken when it comes to life. Emergencies happen. Things happen. If you're flexible in the co-parenting schedule and your ex calls you up and says, I can't make this, or can we postpone that for a day, and you say, sure, I'll change my schedule to accommodate you, they are much more likely to do the same thing when you need that change. And you will. because this co-parenting is years, is decades. Even when your kids are grown, you're co-parenting. And there's nothing more heartbreaking than hearing stories, and I know Lisa and I hear them, about families where the parents can't be at the same graduation in the same room at the same time. They can't be at the birthday parties. They can't be at their children's weddings at the same time. They can't enjoy the holidays and grandchildren at the same time. You have a life ahead of you of experiences, and you could start paving the way. Even if you had a contentious marriage, you could pave the way to a respectful, cooperative, co-parenting situation, because your children will thank you.
And I know, I'm sorry, Roz, I want to make a point that you brought up once when I interviewed you before, that your son actually said that he learned so much in watching you in the divorce and how you handled yourself, and he thanked you later on for that. Can you share just a moment about that experience? I thought that was so wonderful.
Thank you. Yes, it really was the greatest achievement of my life because I had such guilt, as so many of us do as parents. You feel so terrible that you've inflicted a divorce on your kids. And so I co-parented in the very best way I could with my ex. And when my son was in his early 20s, he came to me one day out of the blue and he said, "You know, Ma, you and Dad did such a good job with the divorce. I just want to thank you, because I have so many friends who hate their parents because of the divorce, or who feel they got so screwed up about the divorce that they're really very angry and afraid to get into a relationship themselves. And you and Dad really did it right. Thank you." And that was the moment in my life when I sighed this relief, and I said, I want every family that's experiencing divorce to have that as the outcome with their children. And that's when I started the Child-Centered Divorce Network and wrote my book, How Do I Tell the Kids About the Divorce, and started divorce coaching and working in this arena, because I felt I really did have something of value to share with other families.
Yeah,
so you want that outcome for your family, and it's possible, but you have to start now. You have to lay the foundation at this moment.
Right, and for folks who are out there listening to this who have had contentious divorces or maybe are in the midst of one now, I've interviewed lots of folks who said, you know, for the first couple of years we didn't even barely speak to each other, but as time went on, things began to mellow out, and we just grew up more, we became more respectful, and eventually they were able to turn things around and be more effective in their co-parenting. So don't lose hope if it hasn't gone so well for you up to now. Be the example that you want for your children. You cannot control your ex in any way, but you can be the example for your children, and they are watching and they understand. No matter how small they are, they understand what's going on more than we give them credit for. So just be that shining example of how to behave and be an effective co-parent.
You made such an important point there, Lisa. We are role models for our children, and we don't realize that they learn from us. And we do need to take responsibility, because it's a huge responsibility to be the role model of how we want our kids to learn and what you want your kids to learn from you. And the other point that you made so well is that it is never too late to undo mistakes you made. I know that children are very open and receptive, and you could sit down with your child and apologize and say, you know, if Mom or Dad knew better, I would have done things differently, but from now on, we're going to change some of the ways we do things. We're going to change some of the rules. We're going to change some of the ways we behave. So it's never too late to undo any mistake you made. Your children will honor and respect you. And what better way to role model mature, responsible parenting than to acknowledge when you make a mistake and show your kids that things can be changed and shifted. And it's such a blessing for them when you do it.
Absolutely. It shows them that we all make mistakes and we learn from them and we can turn things around. So be that shining example for them. It goes a long way for everyone in the relationships. Let me ask you this. The resources on the page at International Child-Centered Divorce Month, and I want you to give that, that link again. These are for parents who are pre-divorce, in the midst of divorce, and post-divorce. Is that right, Roz?
Covers the full spectrum because it's useful, valuable information, and it's more than just legal information about a divorce now, because it's divorce and parenting tips, and as we said early on, parenting continues for a long time. So we have wonderful resources on all facets. Wherever your life's at, there are resources there that will be effective for you and make the entire process so much easier for you. So the website is DivorceTownUSA.com/ebook. And that'll get you to the page where you can put in your email address and instantly get access to downloading any of the gifts you want from the experts involved in participating. And they're all people that I personally endorse and recommend and know who really care about you, your family, and creating what we call a child-centered divorce.
That's awesome, and I'm excited to be offering my Divorce Financial Fitness Kit there. These are resources that can help you to save money in the process, and that's money that can go towards your future and your children's future. So I hope you'll avail yourself to that there. So Roz, one more time, why don't you give the listeners your website and the resource link for all of these free gifts before we sign off?
Excellent. Yes. So for International Child-Centered Divorce Month, anytime through January, go to DivorcedParentSupport/ebook, and you can pick up all of the resources and tools and gifts that are available to you. There are also links to interviews and workshops and other events taking place in January that will be of use and helpful to you. And then year-round, you can go to the Child-Centered Divorce Network, which is www.childcentereddivorce.com. And there you'll find additional ebooks and audios, videos, coaching services, tools, resources, list of recommended experts all over the world, and lots of other really valuable information. We're a support system for you, so you don't have to fall through the cracks. And if you contact me personally with an email, I'll be happy to direct you to where I think you can best be served to help you get your issues resolved quickly. And the experts, like Lisa Decker, are all caring professionals who are family focused, and that makes all the difference in the world.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again for being a guest here, Roz. It's always a pleasure working with you, and I appreciate you being here as the premier guest of our new series that we're launching here at DivorceTown USA, and these are our Divorce Way Cafe chats on Google Hangout, and I can be found at DivorceMoneyMatters.com if you're looking for divorce financial planning advice. I help coach clients across the country, and also DivorceTownUSA.com, our new community website where you can find experts like myself and Rosalind and lots of others. We want to help you find the resources that you need no matter where you are. And thank you all for watching. And again, Rosalind, thank you. And a Happy New Year to everyone. Take care.